government.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is the Surge Effect, and this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. In this episode of the Surge Effect, we are going to be talking about the digital sales tax. The digital sales tax was in the news the last several days. Everyone's probably wondering what the DST is or what the digital sales tax was and why Trump wanted to stop negotiations with Canada in regards to trade talks. So I'm going to show you a little bit about it here with some videos and some clippings in the newspaper. At the very end of the video, I got a couple other things I want to dump on you just before I sign off. So, hey, let's get into business. All right, so the first video I'm going to show you is of Mark Carney talking all tough. And this is before the election, right? Because he wanted to make sure his elbows up and talking tough about Trump and whatnot. So listen to what he has to say.
U.S. President Donald Trump claims that he totally changed you and your party's fortunes. Is he interfering in our election? And since he repeated the 51st state comment about Canada, does this mean that a meeting with Trump or a phone call is off the table?
Canadians are going to decide who their next government is going to be. I trust Canadians to make those decisions. We'll have, I'm sure, a robust election campaign, and Canadians will make the choice. No foreign leader is going to determine who's best. One of the factors is going to be, in my judgment, who is going to be best for Canada in the negotiations with the Americans, which will come, but they're, from my perspective, they're not going to come until we get the respect we deserve as a sovereign nation. By the way, this is not a high bar. This is not a high bar to say we will sit down as a sovereign nation and have this negotiation.
Isn't that something, eh? This isn't a high bar, so he says, right? It's not a high bar. Anyway, that's Mark Carney, of course, talking all tough and stuff before he became the prime minister, putting fear into the populace of Canada in regards to, of course, Orange Man bad, right? So the DST, digital sales tax, this tax is put on firms from the United States of America, like Amazon, Google, all these different social media platforms down in the States. Part of the taxation of Canada, and it's retroactive. They want to go back like 4 years, and it actually starts. It would have started today, which is Monday. So let's know what they have to say here. This is that Trump halts trade negotiations because of the DST.
President Trump ending trade negotiations with Canada.
They put a tax on companies that were American companies that they shouldn't, a very severe tax. I guess they could remove it. They will, but it doesn't matter to me. We have all the cards. It's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act.
Let's bring in Kevin O'Leary, a Canadian and chairman of O'Leary Ventures. Man, I love this dude so much because he's smart, he's funny, and he's pithy. And I don't mind just saying it. This is, I don't know, we kind of knew this was going to happen, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Is this a tempest in a teapot?
You know, this policy actually was introduced by the previous administration in Canada, the idiot king, Justin Trudeau. It was bad policy then, and it's bad policy now. But Carney, the new prime minister, that Trudeau was thrown out after he impoverished 25% of the Canadian population, wiped out GDP, buried the country in debt because of one policy called Bill C-69, which doesn't allow development of any energy, anything at all. It's a no pipeline bill. So revenues collapsed in Canada during his 10-year reign. And now Carney has no income. There's no growth in income at all. So he's trying to find any way he can to make income. This is worth $7 billion to the Canadian economy. But obviously, it's not going to work out the way he planned. Now, he may be just testing it. But he doesn't have a lot of options because Canada's economy has been wiped out by the idiot king, and he's got to fix it. And so at the end of the day, this is just another aspect of the negotiation. But I will add one thing. The original vision of this, way back 7 months ago, was why don't we somehow combine these two economies, not sell the country, but Canada has all the raw resources, the unlimited nat gas, unlimited oil, unlimited rare earth, unlimited minerals, and the U.S. is the largest market. Yeah. So what are we, all idiots? Why do we have tariffs in either direction? There should be no...
Exactly. And you're going to hear a little bit more from Kevin a little bit later in my podcast. I just have another video of Kevin as well. This one here is Trump on the Bartiromo show the other morning, talking about Canada, of course, and the DST.
You said you're stopping all trade discussions with Canada?
Until such time as they drop certain taxes, yeah.
The digital
People don't realize Canada is very nasty to deal with. They've charged our farmers up to 400%, almost 400% on certain products and certain, things our farmers want to send in. They have to pay 200, 300, 400%. People don't know that. Canada is a very tough country to deal with. I will say that.
But
and I love Canada.
You have USMCA in place.
I know, but
you'll have to do it.
But USMCA is no good if they cheat.
What does that mean?
Well, there's been things going on that we don't like, and things going on where they took advantage. And hopefully we'll be fine with Canada. I love Canada. Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state. Okay, it really should, because Canada relies entirely on the United States. We don't rely on Canada.
There you have it. So Trump obviously posted stuff on his social media platforms. Of course, he owns Truth Social, so he popped it on Truth Social, and from there it skipped all over the place. But I actually posted this on, reposted this on my Twitter account, or my X account. So he says, we've just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% for years now on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital sales tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which they are. There's just no ifs, ands, buts about it, because that's what they do over in Europe. Okay? So Trump posted this the other day, like I said, on his Truth account, and then I went ahead and reposted it on mine. So anyway, like I said, today is the deadline. Monday is the deadline. Actually, it was like 12 o'clock or something like that they were going to start to have to pay. And the Canadian government miraculously did this. Canada rescinds digital service tax to advance broader trade negotiations with the United States. This was actually dropped June 29th, 2025. This was like last night. And the finance minister, of course, Francois-Philippe Champagne, you'll see his picture here in a minute. I think I have a picture of because the newspapers have just been dumping everywhere about this, what's going on. So here he is here. Here's Champagne here. So this is like last night. They did it last night before midnight. Digital Service Tax axed to advance trade talks with U.S. Finance Department. Yeah, so they did it right under the wire, right under the wire. Politico, Canada drops digital tax that angered Trump to resume U.S. trade talks. Of course, Trump was pissed off because what they have done to the people in his country, right? The digital people, digital companies. Canada drops digital service tax, resumes trade talks with the U.S. You see Carney? See what he's sitting there? Behind him, World Economic Forum. He's still part of the World Economic Forum. And there's Klaus Schwab. And, of course, the prince there. World Economic Forum. We never voted for these people. We never voted for the World Economic Forum to run anything in our country. But yet here we are. And there's another one. Canada drops tech tax to restart U.S. trade talks. Of course they do, because they want to have a chit-chat. So I'm going to drop another little little clip here. This is Canada rescinding. Of course, this is from NBC, I believe. A little clip, them just talking about it, right?
Well, the Trump administration's trade dispute with Canada is back in the spotlight this morning. Canada has rescinded a digital services tax on tech companies. This includes those based in the United States. It comes after President Trump announced on Friday he was suspending trade talks with the country. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor joins us now with the latest. Yamiche, good morning. Great to see you. So these first payments, they were actually initially set to be collected today. This is, again, from Canada's digital services tax. Why do we think they're backing away from the tax right now?
Well, it seems as though this is a direct result of President Trump pulling out of trade negotiations altogether, saying that he was terminating all discussions with Canada related to trade because of this digital services tax. The other thing that's interesting is that we saw a number of tech companies come out, American tech companies come out and praise the president's move. We saw Meta, which of course owns Facebook. We also saw Google, the leaders of Google coming out saying that this was a good move by the president. So this seems to be Canada wanting to back away from this tax because President Trump was just so angry at it about this tax. The other thing to note is that the president was saying at one point that Canada did not have the power in this struggle, that this was really going to end badly for Canada, and that he was just essentially not going to talk to them until this digital services tax was taken away. So it seems as though Canada is doing this because of the president's reaction, though Canadian officials and, of course, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, are also saying that they are still going to be pursuing what's best for Canada. So they are still talking about having trade policies that are beneficial for their own country. But it's a striking development given what happened last.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated.
Of course he wants the best for Canada. Who doesn't want the best for their country? That's what Trump wants. He wants the best for his country as well. And Carney wants what's best for Canada as well. But the problem being is you can't keep hammering the people that are in the country for taxes. And like I said, he wanted to go back on taxes to the companies in the States. So Carney wanted to go back 4 years for digital sales tax on those companies. It would have been billions of dollars. But here's the deal. Just like they mentioned, right? Kevin O'Leary just mentioned that with Canada being so broke that we have no money coming in and everything going out, right? So he's trying to find a way to bring money in because of Bill C-69. I've mentioned this in my podcast numerous times. Check it out online. Go Google it yourself. Bill C-69. It's a cap on oil and LNG. This would be a way for Canada to put money in our coffers instead of just spending money. I literally said this to a friend of mine the other day. I was talking to him. I said it's like this. Like your house, you have income coming in. You have income for your business or your pension or whatever you got. If you were to take that away and you still had outgoing bills, how long would it take for you to lose your house? Our country is our home. It's the same thing. We have no money coming in and money just blasting out because they just write checks for everyone on the taxpayer's dime. And that's what we're into, right? Anyway, so here's a little clip from Fox News in regards to the same DST.
Who we like very much too, joins us now with all the details. Hey, Peter.
Good morning. And the Canadians blinked in the trade war with the U.S. after President Trump announced this weekend that he was going to suspend all trade talks with our neighbors to the north. They decided to turn off a new tax one day before it was set to come due. It is the digital services tax. It took effect in June of last year, and it requires some businesses to pay a 3% tax on revenue that they earn from engaging with Canadian users online. So that could affect companies like Amazon and Meta and Google and Apple. And as tariff talks continue with other countries and Canada, the president's team is most concerned with protecting the following sectors: steel, aluminum, auto, copper, lumber, semiconductors and jet engines, and pharmaceuticals. And all those tariff deals are set to be settled by a long-standing July 9th deadline.
We made a deal pretty much with India. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with UK, great people. We made deals. But I'd rather just send them a letter, a very fair letter, saying, congratulations, we're going to allow you to trade in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff or 20% or 40 or 50%. I would rather do that.
The president's legislative team is still whipping votes for the big, beautiful bill. They're telling Republicans that it would do the following. On taxes, it would deliver the long-promised tax incentives for tips.
So there you go. So now they just talked about the big, beautiful bill there after that. So here's just a few more newspaper clippings that happened just like literally in the last 24 hours. There's one right there. 3% to none. How one tax stalled Canada's U.S. trade. That was just dumped on the paper the other day, within the last 24 hours, sorry. And here's another one here. It says, number one, Pierre Poilievre, thanks to him for cutting the carbon tax. Donald Trump for cutting the digital service tax. And the Liberal Party are an embarrassment, and domestically and internationally, because Canada just rescinded another digital service tax after Trump suspends trade talks. That money grab is it's just what it is. It's a money grab from them. Kind of disgusting when you think of it. Them just wanting to grab cash because we're low on funds. So elbows down right there. Carney told Canadians he could handle Trump. So far, he's been all talk and no action, says the Toronto Sun. So once again, it has to do with the digital sales tax. There's another one here from CTV News. Canada rescinds digital sales tax to bid an advanced trade talk in the United States. That was last night, 10/24, June 29th. So like I said, right under the wire, they pretty much dumped that. So here's Jasmine Lane. I like Jasmine. She does a great job, and I've mentioned her before on my podcast. She has a great podcast herself, so go check her out. Anyway, listen to what she has to say here.
I'm honestly really surprised that this whole Trump situation didn't turn more Canadians conservative, because you're mad at how dependent Canada is on the USA. And you'll say, no, we're mad because he threatened to annex us. No, he didn't. He was pointing out in a very egregious manner what he views as a big disparity between trade and taxes and regulations in Canada. But the fact that he would make that threat and it would be taken so seriously by Canadians is because we know the state of our affairs right now. And you never asked yourself, why is this scaring me so bad, other than the fact that the media is telling me to be scared? Why is this actually such a serious threat? Well, it's pretty simple what the answer is. It's due to policies. It's due to our own government. Not the conservative one, by the way. Canada used to not be like this. Under Harper, we were expanding trade. We were expanding our energy. We were expanding our corridors where we would be able to unleash and unlock all kinds of new trade opportunities across the globe. There were all sorts of plans that he was pushing for to ensure that Canada would never, ever be in a situation like we are right now, where we wouldn't be begging the United States for their defense protection because we haven't invested in our own. And now begging the EU to let us into theirs, and begging Asia and Europe and the UK to try to diversify our trade, which are all things that the Liberals squashed under Justin Trudeau. About 10 years ago, all of a sudden, something changed in Canada where we started canceling deals for new pipelines. We started squashing LNG opportunities, saying there's no business case, and blocking all opportunities with ridiculous bills that would have allowed us to not at all be in this situation right now. They put ideology and their personal investments over country, and then somehow convinced everybody that they weren't the problem and the conservatives were. And do you want to know why the United States is so much better off economically than we are, or at least has so much more opportunity than we do, and why they're powerful the way that they are? It's because they didn't do the things that Canada's Liberal government has done. And it just blows my mind that Liberal Canadians have the audacity to say, oh, Trump, he's so scary. Babe, your own government did this to you, and conservatives have been trying to scream it off the rooftops for years. So why don't you redirect your anger and just, turn it around back towards the government that you just reelected, who is the reason why we're in this position right now? And if you're not ready to do that yet for whatever petty reason, could you at least pick up a history book, please?
That was fantastic. She did a great job. Fantastic job. All right, so here's another little clip. This is of Kevin O'Leary. Like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to play another little clip from Kevin. And this is very well done. Gives you a little bit of an idea what the hell is going on with the DST and, of course, with Canada-U.S. trade. So this is well done.
So this particular tiff, fight, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, started in 2019 under the reign of the idiot king, Justin Trudeau. It was bad policy then, it's bad policy now. It's causing a major rift. It's a 3% tax on tech companies operating in Canada. This whole thing between Canada and the United States, the whole thing's stupid. There should be no tariffs in either direction. Here's why. These jurisdictions, these geographies are joined. You don't have to sell the country. You don't have to merge the countries. But Canada has all the power, the water, the paper, the minerals, rare earths, everything. And the U.S. has the largest market. There should be no tariffs in any direction, north, south, east, west. It's a unique situation. And you do that to create wealth for both countries to fight off China. We're in a war with China because China's coming over the north. So the whole idea of all this crapola is a waste of time. And so really, I look at this saying it's just more negotiation. It's irrelevant. It's going to get worked out. But the whole thing's stupid. There's still a tariff on butter coming out of Vermont at 200% going into Quebec. How stupid is that? It's all stupid. It's all stupid. And at the end of the day, that's why they got rid of the idiot king. They put a new prime minister in place, and he's trying to fix things. But the Canadian economy has been decimated. Zero GDP growth, massive debt. It took 9 years to wipe it out. But the idiot king is gone, and there's a new guy now, and he's got to get this thing worked out fast. This bill, and I've been following it closely, as many have, House to Senate, back and forth. This bill has to get passed, primarily because it puts in place something very important for the economy, the tax platform. And so there's a lot of bells and whistles, including what she's complaining about. Everybody has a beef with the bill. But in the end, everybody knows this thing has to pass. I'd prefer to see it done by July 4. It may last longer, but there's no way on earth this isn't getting passed. There's lots of elements in it that have everybody, fighting for their piece. But this is the bill. It's got to get passed. And so, whether it's salt or whether it's her issues, okay, everybody has to give up something, and that's what's going on. But I'm very optimistic, and so is the market, by the way, the ultimate index, that this thing is going to get put through.
So there you go. There's Kevin O'Leary's little bit of a take on what's going on with the trade, of course, and, of course, that big, beautiful bill of President Trump. Anyway, that's it for today. It's 22 minutes in. Want to give you a bit of a showdown there on the DST, the digital sales tax, what it's all about kind of thing, and just a few videos on it, maybe make you understand a little bit better what's happening and what it entails, and hey, why they're trying to do it. Are they doing it to get a quick money grab? Is that what they want? Let me know in the comments below. So thank you very much for listening to today's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share. Helps with the algorithm with YouTube. And, of course, I post everything over on Rumble as well. I always say yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today is the present, and that's why they call it a gift. And everyone in this life has hard things going on. Life is tough, and it's not easy. But you got to do one thing. I keep saying this at the end of all my podcasts. You got to keep moving forward. That's right. You got to keep moving forward because, like I said, life is tough, and no one said that it was going to be an easy go. Anyway, that being said, thanks for listening again to today's podcast. And until next podcast, everyone, cheers.